Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. Today is Thursday, July 15th. Thank you for being here for our top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. If you are new here, here's just a little introduction to what we do. These are the most read stories from the WKYC.com website. So, truly, this is a news report curated by all of you. So we'll start first with a development that was breaking early yesterday evening. Governor Mike DeWine has signed a bill into law that will ban Ohio public schools and universities from requiring COVID-19 vaccines, sort of, at least in their current form. What this will do is it will prohibit public colleges and schools in Ohio from requiring people to receive vaccines that haven't been granted full approval by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. And of course, that includes right now the COVID-19 vaccines that we do have available. This is legislation that was specifically targeting coronavirus vaccines. Now, this new law will take effect in 90 days, and it will also prohibit the schools from banning individuals who do not receive these emergency use vaccines from being denied the chance to participate in school activities like sports. DeWine signed the bill into law without comment, although a day earlier on Tuesday, he had said that the FDA needs to move coronavirus vaccines from emergency use authorization to full approval as soon as possible, and that the emergency element is leading vaccine hesitancy here in the state of Ohio. Here's a quote from Governor DeWine. "It is past time for the FDA to take into account that hundreds of millions of people have received these vaccines and move it from an emergency basis over to a regular basis. That will help us in Ohio and across the country to get more people vaccinated." Now, this addition, by the way, was a last-minute addition from Republican legislators here in Ohio, and the bill in its original form, was aimed at minimizing disruption for children of military families moving into or out of districts as a result of their parents' deployments. Democrats say adding the measure was a political ploy for votes and it was not based in science. Senate Minority Leader Kenny Yuko, who is a Cleveland Democrat, said this: "Public schools and universities in Ohio should be able to create policies to keep their students and employees safe." There was another last-minute addition as well, requiring the State Department of Health to provide transportation, lodging, food, and medical testing to people who are ordered to quarantine because of a contagious disease outbreak. That's something that could get very costly. It'll be very interesting to see how that plays out in the future. Now, you've probably heard by now about the University Hospital kidney mix-up. Well, 3 News talked to someone who had a kidney transplant after the fact. 3 News talked to Gilbert Ortiz after he underwent a kidney transplant at University Hospitals 5 days after the hospital error. We'll remind you of that error in just a moment. But he said he waited 5 years for the kidney and that he's doing good, and he is very happy with how things went. He said he was 100% kidney failure before that, and that his time was running out. He said he was shocked to hear that there was a kidney mix-up just days before his major surgery at University Hospital. He said that everyone was calling him afterwards and asking if it was him who was a part of that mix-up. Now, Ortiz said that the process at University Hospitals was very strict, from his diet to his surgery, with constant checks. He said you had to say your name and your birthday at pretty much every move in the hospital and have his hospital band scanned, even when they were giving him his food, to make sure he was who he said he was and he was getting the proper things. But here's what happened on July 2nd. University Hospitals has confirmed there was an error and a patient received a kidney that was intended for someone else. Now, the kidney was compatible with the person who did receive the kidney, and that patient is recovering as expected. That's the latest information we got from University Hospitals. And the transplant surgery for the other patient was delayed. Now, we're not sure if that person ended up getting a transplant just yet or if they're still waiting, because UH then released an additional statement saying they can't provide any more information about the situation and that they're taking actions necessary to make sure a mistake like this never happens again. But since then, at least one person has had, at least for now, a successful kidney transplant at University Hospitals. Now, yesterday we told you the story of the Black Lives Matter mural, of the George Floyd mural that collapsed in Toledo because it was struck by lightning. Well, now Black Lives Matter activists are responding to that situation in Toledo. Julian Mack and Ruth Leonard, they are activists with Community Solidarity Response Network. They say that The mural coming down is giving the community an opportunity to reset and realize the fight against racism is not over. Leonard said that you can still see a very clear divide in how people are responding and reacting to the mural being struck by lightning and crumbling. The bricks that the mural was painted on crumbled. That's what happened. And so what they're seeing right now is the belief that racism still needs to be reckoned with in that area. Now, Mac is the spokesperson for CSRN, and he says that he's watched people drive by the scene and not seeing that face there is striking something up in people, according to him. He says striking by and not seeing is letting people know that there's still work to be done. And Leonard and Mac both say that they see the rubble as a sign and that an even larger mural will soon make an appearance in the city. That's what they hope will happen. And we do know from the mayor of Toledo and also the artist, David Ross, who created that mural, that they do plan to do that, and they hope to put it in a prominent place where a lot of people will be able to appreciate and experience it. Now, here in Cuyahoga County, there is a bit of a situation going on. There's an emergency shelter that will be closed soon. I'm talking about the Ramada Inn in Independence, where 100 people who are without homes have been sheltered throughout the pandemic. This is in Cuyahoga County. Ronald Freeman is among one of those people. He's among 52 men, actually, who's refusing to leave the hotel after they've been ordered by, officials to do so. Freeman says that the county is forcing them into congregant living. This is closer quarters living, while variants of COVID-19 remain present, placing them in an impossible decision to sleep on the streets or risk our lives in congregate emergency shelter. He says dozens of other homeless men who have been staying at this hotel feel unsafe returning to the streets and the congregate settings because the pandemic remains a serious risk for people experiencing homelessness. Now, the Northeast Ohio Coalition for Homelessness is asking the county to honor the original contract date, which would have kept that place open for these people to August 31st. Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry, which Cuyahoga County pays to house these men, has been using the Ramada Inn as a shelter since April. But Independence Mayor Gregory Kurtz has given them until the middle of July, which is right about now, to close things up, citing an Ohio law that says a person can't stay in a hotel room for more than 30 days. But the hotel's manager, Elizabeth White, said she's very upset about this, and the hotel has been complying because every 28 days they have moved the men. They've taken the men out of the rooms, they've cleaned the rooms, and moved them to a different room to make sure they are in compliance with that law. However, the city not acknowledging that. Now, in what could be a response to that, we are now learning that Cuyahoga County officials are hoping to purchase a Lakeside Avenue property to house additional homeless people here in Cleveland. They announced today they have a plan to contract with 2020 Lakeside Avenue. That would give them 14,000 more additional square footage of space and the ability to shelter 70 more people. Now, this is right next door to the Emergency Men's Homeless Shelter, which currently houses about 350 men. Officials tell 3 News that Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry would be managing the facility and its services, and that upon approval from the Cleveland City Council, which is what required in order for this deal to move forward, that there would be HVAC installment and major renovations completed. So we will be following that, and we will let you know what those updates are as they become available. Now, if you have been following boxing, perhaps because you love the sport of boxing, or perhaps because you're a fan of the locals, Jake and Logan Paul, have some news for you there. Jake Paul had a press conference today with his next opponent, Tyron Woodley. That was at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse today. Now, the two will be squaring off in a Showtime pay-per-view event on August 29th, right here in Cleveland. Jake Paul, boxing for about a year and a half now, he's got an undefeated 3-0 record, but Woodley definitely ups the caliber here. He is a decorated mixed martial artist and a striking specialist. He's had the UFC welterweight title from 2006 to 2019, but this will be his first professional boxing match against Jake Paul. Now, entering the press conference, Jake Paul came out to Diddy and Skylar Gray's I'm Coming Home and talked about how he's been under pressure his entire career. And speaking in the third person, he said, millions of people want to see Jake Paul lose because I'm that polarizing, villainizing figure. He says the pressure of being here in his hometown with friends and family watching, it adds to the pressure. And he said this, but pressure creates diamonds, and it's pushed me to be the best version of myself. Now, as for Woodley, he says he just wants to spoil that homecoming for Jake Paul. The motivation for me is simple. It's domination, he said. He says, doesn't matter if it's in Cleveland, Ohio, or in the back of a White Castle. That'll be coming up on August 29th, and of course, we will be covering it here at WKYC.com. Now, if you've been following the space news, you know that Sir Richard Branson did beat Jeff Bezos to get his private aircraft into space, but it's going to happen for Jeff Bezos, and we do know now that the winner of the charity auction, who was supposed to be the passenger on that initial flight for Blue Origin, is stepping aside because of a scheduling conflict. So Jeff Bezos didn't make the record of being the first private person to fly himself into space on a private aircraft, but he will break other records with the people that he is bringing. Instead of the charity winner, an 18-year-old will become the youngest person in space. That person's name is Oliver Damon, and the new would-be oldest person in space will also be accompanying Bezos at the age of 82. Wally Funk, who was one of 13 female pilots who went through the same studies in the early 1960s as NASA's Mercury 7 astronauts, but were rejected for being women. They'll be righting that historical wrong when that flight does happen. Also, Jeff Bezos' brother will also be involved, and with that, Bezos will become the second person to ride his own rocket into space. Now, previous record holders were a Soviet cosmonaut who was 25 when he went into orbit, the first person in space, 4 months after the first person in space, and John Glenn, who would have been 100 on Sunday and is from Ohio. He was 77 when he went into space in 1998. So when Wally Funk gets up there at the age of 82, that'll change that record. And one more thing to let you know before we go. Tickets are on sale now for the 2021 Cleveland National Air Show. When I first moved back to Cleveland, it was the weekend of the air show, and I loved being down in the flats on the rooftop there at Punch Bowl Social, watching everything go on. So that's happening September 4th, 5th, and 6th this year. It's at Burke Lakefront Airport. If you want to actually go there to the site of the air show and not watch it from afar, you got to get your tickets in advance. You will not be able to buy those tickets at the gate. The tickets are on sale now at a slight discount through August 30th. After August 30th, they go up a little bit. Now they're $30 for adults. They'll be $35 for adults after August 30th. $20 for children 6 to 11. Free for children 5 years of age and under. Remember, in advance only. And also remember that it's Cleveland Burger Week now through Sunday. I got myself a vegan burger from the Foundry, and it was delicious. So don't think if you don't eat meat that you can't participate. If you want to get a delicious $6 burger from more than 30 locations around Cleveland, you have until Sunday to do it. That's it for your 3 News Now update today for Thursday, July 15th. I'll see you next up on What's New with your trending stories in the Clicking in Cleveland segment, and I will see you back here tomorrow for more 3 News Now.